Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey friend, welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. I am so glad you're here this week. And if you have been following along with my previous series on blogging, which we just wrapped up this last week with the third part of the blogging series for photographers, then you are going to find that this episode is kind of the natural next step for where we are in technology today. And it also might be a little eye roll inducing. So hopefully if you read the title, even if you are an AI skeptic, you're here because you want to get a better understanding of it. And I'm just going to be completely transparent that I am not 100% on board with AI. In fact, oddly enough, my husband and I just watched a show last night where they were kind of diving into AI and the capabilities of AI and the future of AI. And it wasn't exactly the most heartwarming episode of whatever we were watching. It was actually a little bit terrifying when you really consider what AI is capable of. But all that to say, we are in the age of AI. And in putting out the episodes around the blogging series, I got a couple of comments on social media and in messages, and I've seen this brought up in Facebook groups multiple times in the last year, which is where people will say, how do I get found in AI searches? Because that seems to be the new Google for a lot of people. Or I'll see people say in Facebook groups guys, I'm so excited. I got my first inquiry from a ChatGPT search. And they're all excited. And then there's all these other photographers going, how did that happen? How did you end up in the search? Blah, blah, blah. So what I want to do in this episode is kind of break down not only how you get found in an AI search, but if that is something you should really be putting your focus on based on your ideal client. So let's start there because this is very important. And again, going back to the show my husband and I watched last night, it started a conversation between him and I about AI and kind of how AI is being used in our respective industries. And he was talking about how many people in his office are focused on AI and how his company is even kind of tracking their AI usage. So he has a company issued device, a computer, and his company is actually now tracking how often each of its employees are using AI technology and what they're using it for, which is interesting in itself. But they're probably using AI to track that as well, which is funny, very meta. But then he was talking about the people on his team that he manages and how many of them are using AI and how many of them are using it successfully. And it was funny because I used the phrase you're becoming a very old man right now, because he is not necessarily anti-AI, but he was just kind of it doesn't seem like it's any faster. He was talking about how one of his team members will create a lot of her emails using Microsoft Copilot. And he's it doesn't make any sense because isn't it just faster to write the email yourself? And again, it just led to a very interesting conversation around kind of the AI movement within the business industry. And so what that led me to think about is the fact that yes, AI is going to be more heavily used by the younger generations, because my generation, so I'm in my 40s, if you are, the Gen X or millennial, you're probably right up in there or older, then you're probably getting to that point where you're this new technology, it just feels scary and intimidating, or you're not really sure you understand it, or those things. So if your target audience is someone who is of that generation, then they're probably not going to ChatGPT to search for a photographer. They're still going to Google. But if your audience is a younger generation, if your audience is, the early 20s or even high school seniors, then you probably are likely going to want to focus on how do you show up in these searches, because they're the ones who are using this technology in place of Google. I even see it with my own teenage daughter. Like, she uses ChatGPT like a search engine. And her phone has, like, I can see, all the kind of what she accesses and how often she's using different apps. And she has time limits. So there will be times in the evening when she's working on homework and she's hit her time limit for like ChatGPT that day, and she'll send me like a request for extra time. And so I will usually go to her, I'm like, why do you need extra time on ChatGPT? And she's like, well, I'm trying to work on this assignment. I need to ask ChatGPT questions. I'm like, just Google it. And she's like, no, I don't Google anything. Like, Google is not something that these kids are using as much. She's like, ChatGPT gives me an actual answer, whereas Google just gives me like links to other things and I have to go get the information myself. Love it or hate it, I have my opinions, but that is what this generation is using. So that brings me back to the question of, if you feel like that your audience is going to be searching for things on ChatGPT or Claude or an AI search engine of some kind, where can we be, or how can we as photographers be utilizing our content to help get found in those searches? So let's talk about it. Okay, first and foremost, AI searches are essentially a version of kind of like a Google search, but instead of giving you like links to go to and click on yourself, it's taking the information and creating a response for you. Now, it will sometimes give you like a list of links, but it's not like just pages and pages and pages like Google is. It is sort of pulling what it feels like is the best responses, the best options based on the question you gave it. So what that means is it's using the same SEO capabilities that we've already talked about when it comes to blogging and website and things like that. Your content still has to be highly searchable. Your content still needs to be something that the search engine crawlers are going to latch onto. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more specific. So where we've talked about SEO in the past, we've talked about keywords. So an example of a good keyword for like a blog post might be a Dallas newborn photographer, or Denver family outdoor photographer, or Pacific Northwest elopement photographer. Like, those have been kind of the keywords that we've utilized in the past. The difference in Google search keywords, like keywords specifically designed for a Google search like that, is that when someone goes to Google, they are probably typing in things like, north or elopement photographer in Seattle, Washington, or family photographer in Denver, Colorado. Like, those are the things they're probably searching for. They're more concise keywords. Where the difference lies with these AI searches is that people are creating more detailed and specific search requests. So instead of going into ChatGPT and saying, I'm searching for a newborn photographer in Dallas, they're going to ask more specific questions. They're going to say things like, I'm looking for a newborn photographer that specializes in studio posed newborn photos in this area. And then they'll put whatever area they're in. Or they might say, I'm looking for a photographer in Denver who is really good with young kids in an outdoor setting. Those are the type of questions they're asking. Now, what that means for us is that as photographers, we have to be putting out those types of keywords and phrases and content onto the internet, whether that is in our website content, or it's in our blog content, or it's in our social media content, because social media content can be searched as well. Whatever content you're putting out onto the internet, it needs to now include more robust keyword phrases and content pieces, because that is what people are searching for when they go into these ChatGPT conversations. Or even if they ask, starting off with ChatGPT, they might say, I'm looking for a family photographer in Denver, Colorado. And then it will pull up, 15 or 20 different options. And then they might say, okay, out of these options, which one is most known for taking photos in the mountains? And then it's going to break it down from there. Okay, which of these focuses on families with young kids? And then they might break it down from there. So again, even if they don't ask it all in one question, they are looking for those specific pieces. And here's where we go back to the series I just did. Because your blog content is going to be a much easier place, I should say, in order to get these keywords in. Because being able to put it on your website is great, but then it's going to feel very keyword stuffed. It's going to feel like you're just saying things on your website for the sake of searchability. And we don't want that. We want our websites to feel natural and like someone is meeting us for the first time. And then we use our blog to add in these content pieces that are highly searchable. So now what you're going to do is you're going to create a blog post that talks about all the different locations. And like, let's say you do photograph in Denver, Colorado, you're a family photographer, and you do a lot of sessions out in the mountains. So maybe you do a couple blog posts about some of your favorite mountain locations, or, top 5 mountain locations for family photos, or, why you should have your family photos taken in the mountains when you're in Denver. Those kinds of things are going to become what pulls you into those searches. So the second piece of this is it also means that you need to become very specific in what you do. And you need to talk about that specificity. Oh my gosh, why can't I say that word? You need to talk about that specialty that you can do in your content, because that's how you're going to get found. Now, if you are creating blog posts that is like, I'm a great, photographer in the mountains, but I can also take pictures in your home. And I also have a studio for newborns. It's going to be a little bit confusing and hard to create content that's really highly searchable. So I'm not saying niche down to just, I only take photos of families in the mountains, but you need to have kind of a specific zone that you're staying in, that you're creating content around. You can do other things as well as that, but that your content stays around sort of this one zone. So what I mean by zone is, if you're a family photographer in Denver, I'm just going to keep using that example, you can talk about taking photos in the mountains, but you can also talk about that maybe you do have a studio space that you do take photos in with families with young children, or you share tips about how to handle toddlers during a family session. So you can do that, but you don't need to then jump to, posed newborns and teaching other photographers how to pose newborns properly. Like, there needs to be some kind of clear delineation into what you do and kind of what you're the expert in. Because one of the things that I've noticed that these younger generation are searching for is they want people who are experts at what they do. Because they have the entire world at their fingertips, they are getting very picky about who they are paying their money to. They don't just want to go in and search for best photographer in Dallas, Texas, and the first one that pulls up they hire. They are looking for a very specific vision, and they want to find the person that's going to match that vision. So don't be afraid to say, if this is your vision, if your vision is beautiful family photos in the mountains outside Denver, Colorado, I'm your girl. That's me. If you are the expert in lifestyle newborn photos in your studio or in people's homes or wherever, that's your thing you want to be known for, right? That's the thing that's going to draw people in and go, that's the expert in that. That's what we're looking for. That's what I want. So I know that feels very honed in and niche-y, but I really think that the more that the AI searchability comes into this, the more niche it's going to be, the better. That's just going to help you get more clarity, and it's going to set you apart as this expert in your zone. Okay, the other thing I want you to consider, and I've started kind of testing this on my blogs, is at the end of each blog post, I add in an FAQ section. I have a FAQ section, frequently asked questions section on my website. That's extremely helpful. Don't be afraid to add in multiple FAQs or even in different sections of your website, because those are going to be the questions people are searching for. So for example, if you are that newborn photographer, one of the FAQs might be, when should I book newborn photos? Answer that question in using that question, the question of when should I book my newborn photos? And then answer that question on your website, in your blog post, because someone's going to go into ChatGPT and they're going to search for, when do I need to book my newborn photos? And hopefully it's going to pull and show up your website. Or if someone's going into, searching for, can dogs be included in my photo shoot? Hopefully you have a whole blog post and it'll pull from that. So adding those FAQs to your blog post and to your website can be really helpful, because that's going to give you multiple versions of the questions and the specificities. Oh my gosh, I keep adding this word in and I can't say it. The specific keywords, good grief, that your audience is going to be putting into that ChatGPT search. So the more places you can put those questions and keywords and phrases, the better. So at the end of my blog post, what I do is, let's say I have a blog post that is about brand sessions, and it's, 5 must-have props to bring to your brand session. Then at the bottom, I'm adding in 3 or 4 or 5 FAQs. So things like, do I need to bring my laptop or computer with me to a brand session? What is the number one prop I should bring to my brand session? Does my photographer bring props to a brand session? Like, those are the kind of it's almost like a TDLR, or TLDR, too long didn't read. And it's almost like that little section at the bottom, but it just adds in those bonus keywords. And then the last thing I'll say about how to kind of create content that is going to help you get found in a AI search is, you want to build authority outside of social media. So social media can be great for building virality and building an audience and creating lots and lots of content that's available online, but it's not necessarily going to be the place that these AI tools are going to as a source of truth. So you want to create content on platforms that they consider more of a source of truth. So obviously things like Google, so your blog is going to be a big one, but then even putting your content on Pinterest, having your Google business profile set up and putting content there, YouTube, podcasts, being a guest on a podcast, all of that just kind of adds multiple layers to the content you're putting out there. So if you've created, all these blog posts around taking photos in the mountains and you're putting them on Pinterest, but then maybe you're creating little mini videos you're putting out onto YouTube, you have all of the information on your Google business profile. Maybe you go on to a podcast somewhere, or you create a photography podcast where you talk about that. It's just adding more and more layers. And it's just the more layers you have, the more credibility you have with your audience, but also with the AI searches. One of the key things I want to make sure that I get across here is that the biggest difference between a Google search and an AI search is the piece of information, the type of information that they're each looking for. Google is just pulling whatever it finds that closely matches the search keywords. AI is pulling information that is actually going to be relevant and educational and helpful. So when you've put in a question to ChatGPT, it doesn't just spit out a list of, links. It's going to give you an actual phrased response. Well, it's pulling those phrases from something on the internet. And so it is looking for what content on the internet is going to give me enough information that I can then produce an answer to this question that's being asked. So the more information you're putting on the internet that is educational, that is informative, that is valuable, then the more likely that these AI searches are going to be to find your content and pull from it, because you have educated, you've solved a problem, you've built trust. So all of those things are going to be incredibly important going forward as we go more and more into kind of this AI SEO searchability piece. Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten into the discussion of all this, I will say I don't want AI to intimidate you. I myself am a little bit cautious about AI. I'm very careful with it. I haven't gone 100% into it, but I do know enough about it that I know I need to be aware of it. I need to be doing things to kind of be loosely associated with it in some way, because that is how some of my audience at some point will find me. And there's aspects of AI that are beneficial. So if AI terrifies you and you're kind of I don't even know, hopefully this has given you a little bit of kind of a glimpse into the less scary side of it. and how it's not this thing that you have to learn something completely new in order to utilize. It just takes tweaking what you're already doing into a different, just shifting it a little bit into a different lens of it, a different aspect of it, so that it can be found in these AI searches. All right, guys, I would love to know your thoughts on this. Please come find me over on Instagram, send me a DM, send me a message, leave a comment on this video or this post or this episode. My brain is mush right now. I need AI to help me. But anyway, I hope you're having an amazing week. I hope you have an amazing week going forward. And I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.